Well, newly elected Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been in D.C. for just a couple weeks, and she's already a prominent fixture here. In an interview last night with 60 Minutes, she called for big changes to this country, starting with raising taxes to as much as 70% on the wealthy. Here's part of it.
But once you get to like the tippy tops, on your $10 millionth dollar, sometimes you see tax rates as high as 60 or 70%. That doesn't mean all $10 million are taxed at an extremely high rate, but it means that as you climb up this ladder, you should be contributing more.
Well, Republican Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana criticized that proposal on Twitter and got the kind of abuse you would imagine, comments like, "Kick his cane." Scalise responded to that this morning on Fox Watch.
A lot of her followers started making some very inappropriate references and comments, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to have this debate here.
Yeah, and when you say
with you on the House floor.
Everybody knows you were shot, almost killed. Miraculous story that you weren't, thank goodness. And all of a sudden, these followers are saying they're going to snipe you. So you got threats. Did she call you, contact you in any way?
No, I haven't heard from her yet.
Lisa Booth follows this kind of stuff for us. She's an Independent Women's Voice Senior Fellow, and she joins us tonight. Lisa, thanks very much for coming on.
So thanks for having me.
So was there a backstory here? Had the two of them tangled before, Scalise and Ocasio-Cortez?
I don't think so, but you have to remember, too, this interview she did and her calls for increasing the marginal tax rates by 70% on those highest earners has gotten a lot of national attention, as you know. So We've had a lot of, and now she's got also publications asking, is this something we should do? I saw, reports by Vox. I think CBS ran a story. So now we have all these national outlets basically having this conversation. So I really think Republicans need to take her seriously and realize the impact that she has. She has 2 million something followers on Twitter, and she is now, as a freshman member of Congress, 29 years old, started this national conversation. So Republicans should take her very seriously.
This is exactly what we're going to get if we don't get this moment under control. That is, I couldn't agree with you more. Are other Democrats starting to mimic what she's saying? Do you think she's having that effect already?
I think she will. I honestly do. And I think it's also important to remember, look, she represents New York's 14th congressional district. It's a D+29 district. She's here to stay. Unless she gets primaried from the left, she's not going to be beaten by the right. So she's probably going to be around for a while. But I also think what's important for Republicans is to take a step back and ask, she's essentially asking for this tax increase to solve a problem that's already being solved. So she wants this Green Deal in an effort to fight climate change, in an effort to reduce carbon emissions. We're doing that on our own. The United States is the leader in the world in reducing carbon emissions. We're doing that via natural gas, by market forces, by the private sector, and innovation. And so she's asking to solve a problem that the United States is solving on its own through innovation in the private sector.
Somebody better start making that case, I would say, in public pretty fast.
Well,
you can sort of see where this is going. Yeah, I agree with you.
And one other thing, Tucker, as well, she's bemoaning corporations, but she wants to take this money, likely from taxpayers, and what they're going to ultimately do is the same thing that President Obama did with the stimulus, companies like Solyndra. So she's going to continue to feed that corporate welfare and corporate greed, yet she bemoans corporations and corporate greed.
Yeah, I wonder where she is on Google. Interesting question. Lisa Booth, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Great
Tucker.
to see you. Well, the Ocasio-Cortez interview was interesting and lengthy. Unsurprisingly, she thinks the president is a racist. But she also accused him of inventing a fake crisis at our southern border. Here's part of it.
Do you believe President Trump is a racist?
Yeah, no question.
How can you say that?
When you look at the words that he uses, which are historic dog whistles of white supremacy, when you look at how he reacted to the Charlottesville incident where neo-Nazis murdered a woman versus how he manufactures crises like immigrants seeking legal refuge on our borders, it's night and day.
Ocasio-Cortez also defended making occasional flubs on factual matters. She accused her critics of having the wrong priorities there.
Criticisms of you is that your math is fuzzy. The Washington Post recently awarded you 4 Pinocchios.
I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
But being factually correct is important.
It's absolutely important. And whenever I make a mistake, I say, okay, this was clumsy. And then I restate what my point was.
Well, speaking of morally correct, author and columnist Mark Steyn joins us tonight. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Tucker.
What do you make of that interview?
Well, you know, I actually thought that last point gets to the heart of Democrat identity politics. If you are, the idea to be morally right over being factually correct, if you are going to talk about marginal tax rates, then characterizing it as the tippy tops is actually probably a cute way to sell confiscatory taxation to large numbers of people. The whole point about being a Democrat or a progressive or a socialist is you're nicer than everybody. You have views about minorities and poor people and all the rest of it, and it doesn't matter if they devastate the black family or they admit MS-13 gangs. It doesn't matter. You're essentially advertising your niceness. And the problem with a lot of Democrats is they're not obviously very nice. If you look at Chuck Schumer, for example, you know, he's like almost like a stereotypical shark. You can see him, you know, polishing his fin as he's talking to you. And the danger for Republicans is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually presents these moral issues in a very appealing way. I agree with Lisa on that.
So I mean, what's the response? I mean, I agree with you completely, and with Lisa Booth. I think it's easy to make fun of her, and obviously I enjoy it. But, I mean, this could be the future. We'd be unwise to write it off as a fluke, wouldn't we?
Yes, I think so. I mean, she made a very interesting point. As a foreigner, I always find those 60 Minutes interviews horribly over-edited, so they approximate to no known rhythms of human speech. But she got in a couple of words. No, they are. I don't understand why.
You're totally right.
No, this thing's been on for 50 years, and I have no idea why they do it like that. But the point where she talked about, you know, education and healthcare. America spends more than other countries and gets worse results. You know, that's a conversation. That's a starting point. A lot of people on the right would be willing to share with her. She wants to go in different directions. But her personal story, you know, her father got cancer and they died. So it's not just you get one lousy cancer and you lose your dad. She also lost her nice home in the suburbs, and her mother had to become a school bus driver. Those are things that ordinary people can relate to. That story is very common. And Republicans have to be careful. This is not Chuck Schumer. This is not Hillary Clinton. This is someone, and we should thank God, by the way, that you have to be older than 29 and a half to run for president, because otherwise the Democrats would have a completely different scale of threat.
Very smart. I agree with that completely. I agree with everything you say, always. Mark Steyn, great to see you. Thank you.
Now, Tucker. Thank you.
True.
Thanks a lot.
Kind of spooky.